A sigh of relief for the parents of young kids as the ink dries on a daycare deal with the federal government.
The $13.2 billion program will begin almost right away with a 25% cut in fees for children 5 years of age and under. That number then jumps to a 50% cut by the end of the year. The fees will drop to an average of $10 a day by September of 2025. Now, Ontario had been the only province that hadn't signed on to the Trudeau government's plan to bring childcare fees down to an average of $10 a day by the end of 2026.
Joining us now to talk more about this deal is Ontario's Education Minister Stephen Lecce. Minister Lecce, thank you for joining us early morning on a Tuesday to talk about this. So the deal was coming down to the deadline. Ultimately, that seemed to help secure a 6th year. So was it worth the wait, even though parents weren't paying less sooner?
You know, we're very proud that we were able to achieve an outcome for families that no government could do, which is cut fees and make that savings happen immediately. This program adds, yes, an additional year of investment, $2.9 billion more dollars, more flexibility and support for families who raise their children, be it a nonprofit or for profit. So we think there's strength in this program, and I do believe that saving families money immediately, retroactive to April, 25% on average up front, 50% by Christmas, is going to great relief for families who pay very high fees for childcare. A reality that was inherited under the former Liberal government. It rose by 400%. Something had to give. And Premier Ford knew we had to be at the table, and we stayed at the table to land a good deal, a better deal for Ontario families.
Minister, you're giving a lot of credit to the Premier. What about the federal government who came to the table with the big check in the first place?
Well, we're grateful for the partnership. You could only do this when parties and governments work together in the public interest. I think it is a strength in our economy, in our country, our democracy. You look around the world, you don't see this type of intergovernmental collaboration. And in a time of crisis, including the financial challenges, the cost of living, rising inflation, we need governments to put their party interests aside and work in the interests of the people. And this program is going to save on average $6,000 for a working parent per child. It's a significant savings, and it's relief at an important time. We also want to help, really kickstart our recovery in Ontario, our economy, create jobs. And a critical part of that are the women that had to leave the labor market, leave the workforce, because it actually was cheaper to stay home than send your child to a childcare center. So this is going to be very important to supporting women in the workforce, financial relief, and putting money in the bank for families that I think really are looking forward to saving thousands of dollars this year and every year under this program.
Minister Lecce, what comes with this deal is also the creation or promise to create 86,000 new daycare spaces and also to raise the minimum wage. I believe for staff it's $18 right now. They're calling for a minimum of $25, but that's not going to happen until 2025. Even Premier Ford said he'd like to pay these early childcare workers more money. So why drag it out till 2025? Why not pay them that minimum wage of $25 an hour right now, especially if there is a need to secure more workers?
You're absolutely right, Jennifer. We do need more workers. I mean, we are creating 86,000 spaces over the next 5 years, and that's going to require what we estimate to be about 14,700 more ECs, more early childhood educators, who, by the way, worked straight through this pandemic. Incredible people. I want to give them the recognition they deserve. Our program, yes, creates a minimum wage of $18 for the EC, $20 for the supervisory ECE. Every year of the agreement, it increases by $1. Keep in mind, 75% of the workforce we estimate are actually making more than that $18, but this is creating a bit of a floor. We equalize the workforce. We create at least a minimum standard of income to retain the workforce and incent more of them to step forward and take on these critical jobs. We do anticipate growth in wages every single year, rising to $25. And keep in mind, we're continuing to invest in our childcare centers. We're sending 9,000 HEPA units within our childcare centers to reduce the risk. We've got N95s, preferential access for vaccines. All of these things are designed to signal to our staff that we appreciate them, and we're going to pay them accordingly.
Okay, Minister, we also, of course, have an election coming up in, a couple of months, about 8 or 9 weeks from now. Education, as you well know, it's been a difficult portfolio over the last sort of several years, from collective bargaining to pandemic pressures. Would you consider to continue to serve as Education Minister if you're called upon again by the Premier and you're reelected?
Well, the first step is to get reelected. I serve at the pleasure of the Premier. I mean, look, it has been a singular honor to serve young people in Ontario, 2 million kids. We have restored a meritocracy in hiring in Ontario, abolishing union seniority hiring. We've revolutionized our math curriculum, our science curriculum, going back to basics, financial literacy, coding. We're modernizing it, giving young people the skill sets, the competitive advantage, so when they graduate, they can get a good paying job. So while we're making reform and we're delivering change within our education system, I know it always is difficult, but it's worth the effort. Our young people need politicians of different political parties to make them their focus. And I think this deal today underscores our commitment to young families, to kids, getting them on the right track of success.
All right, Minister Lecce, finally, last question for you here. CP24 has learned about an announcement today from your government cracking down on those reselling government-issued PPE. How widespread is this problem, and do you think that it requires legislation to address it?
Well, I think in the early waves of the pandemic, we really saw some of the best of humanity and some of the worst of humanity. And I think what we want to make sure is, as Canadians, as Ontarians, we are never in a position where we're beholden to foreign countries' interests, and we don't have enough PPE domestically, not just for the economic benefit, but for the purpose of our health and safety, our security. And so this is a preventative action that government can take to ensure we're never in a position where we don't have the instruments, the tools to protect lives and protect our staff in healthcare who have done so much. And I think they need that assurance. So while I'll let the minister responsible speak more about these elements, I can just tell you that many of my constituents in my riding in King and Vaughan said, why are we waiting on the US or on China to send us product when we needed this for our staff? And so these types of lessons learned, I think, can be adopted to ensure we are better off, stronger, and more prepared for anything thrown at us, be it in the pandemic, or economically, whatever that challenge is. We'll be ready as a province, as a government.
Okay, Minister Lecce, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.